Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Now I'm talking about ringworm, which is actually not a worm, it is a fungus. And if you have little ones, I'm sure you've had experience with this. If you're a former athlete or work out in the gym, you may have gotten this as well. So this is kind of a crash course on ringworm and the basics of what you need to know. So I'm covering four different types of ringworm. So there's the term for it is tinea. So tinea capitis, and capitis is Latin for head. So tinea of the scalp, tinea corporis, so corporis body, tinea pedis, so this is athlete's foot, and then tinea unguinum, which is the nails. So more often on the feet, right? So let's start with tinea capitis. We see this so often in the pediatric population, and what I feel like I see very often is parents coming in saying, "Well, we've done the treatment, we did the treatment, and it's just not going away." And typically, what most of the time they've been given a topical treatment. When you have ringworm in the scalp, you need to be treated with an oral medication. So ringworm can come in two forms. The endothrix, which means that it gets into the hair follicle, and then the ectothrix, which means it's outside, it's just on the skin. And this is very generalized, right? So when it's the endothrix, you have to take it by mouth because systemically you need to grow healthy hair that doesn't have ringworm in it. And I keep saying ringworm, but it's tinea. And typically, what you'll see is your child will have a patch of hair that's missing. And in that, usually it's circular patch, you'll see these little black dots. And that's where the hair has broken off. So the healthy hair that was there is diseased from the tinea and it breaks off. So those little black dots or dark dots are the broken hair follicles. So we usually treat these kids with griseofulvin, which is an antifungal. And you take it once a day, but here's the thing. Tinea takes some diligence. It takes some work to get this to go away. Certainly not impossible, very doable, but it really takes being on top of things. So these kids need to be treated once a day for 6 to 12 weeks. Yeah, it's a long time. And griseofulvin in particular is one of those medications that is absorbed better if it's given with a fatty food. So I tell parents give it with like in the morning with a glass of whole milk or yogurt or eggs. If you're giving it at night, let them have some ice cream with it. Because oftentimes, even if parents are swearing, no, I gave it every day, if they're not giving it with a fatty food, then it may not be absorbed properly. In addition to that, if the offending agent, so let's say frequent haircuts at the same barber shop, and that's where the tinea came from, just as an example. So trying to figure out if you know where it came from, because if you're giving the treatment, but then it's not getting better or they're getting more spots, then they're probably continuing to have an exposure. So that's tinea capitis, very basic. If it gets quite bad, where it looks really boggy, I'm not gonna post a picture, but you can Google it. Carrion is what it's called, Kerion. So that round area will get very boggy. It will have like pustules around it, very angry looking. That is like a hyperimmune response to the ringworm. And so oftentimes we'll see providers who aren't familiar with carrion think that it's bacterial and treat with antibiotics. You can get a secondary bacterial infection, especially if the kid is scratching at it, but you have to treat the primary infection, which is the ringworm. So that is the predominant treatment is for the ringworm, which is back to the griseofulvin. Carrion bacterial folliculitis, just inflammation of the hair follicles, can mimic those little lesions of carrion, but you won't have that rounded, big, boggy area. So that's tinea capitis. Tinea corporis is in the body. So that's when you'll have the little kind of rounded area with the raised edge, kind of scaly in the middle. You can get this from, like, kids can pass this around at school. You could get this from going to the gym if people aren't wiping down equipment or benches or mats appropriately. Wrestlers get this all the time. And so tinea corporis and tinea pedis, or athlete's foot, are pretty much treated the same, and they're treated with topical antifungals. Depending on which antifungal you use, and antifungals, like if you go to Walgreens, CVS, wherever, you'll see athlete's foot treatment. It's the azoles, so ketoconazole, clotrimazole. Those are the topical antifungals. So some are once a day, some are twice a day, depending on which one. You just follow the directions on the label. But the most important part with this treatment as well is, again, diligence. So making sure when you apply the cream, you really need to get like an inch around or beyond where the ringworm border is. And another piece of advice that one of my attendings taught me, I think in fellowship, and I still take to this day and tell families, is when it goes away, apply it as you have been doing for another week beyond that, to just assure that even if you're not actually seeing it, there might still be some there, but you're assuring that it's gone. And so that's tinea corporis, so the body, anywhere on the body, excluding the scalp and the nails, and the feet. And then tinea unguinum, or the nails, is in kids can be treated topically, because the thought is the nail bed is a little more thin, and so maybe it could be treated topically, but we typically treat this orally as well. We usually treat this with terbinafine, and I'll tell you, in kids too, a lot of families have difficulty getting in with their primary care physicians, which is certainly understandable. And so if you don't have good follow-up, if I'm worried about anything like that, then I'm just going to put them on oral to make sure we're getting the job done. And again, like making sure kids are washing their hands often, and all of those things will help mitigate the spread of ringworm. All right, hope this helps. Bye.